Hello, this is Dr. Mike Brooks. I'm a licensed psychologist based in Austin, Texas. This is my series about searching for truth and life satisfaction in a complicated world. I've been doing a series on the roots of mass shootings. This is my third part. So what we've covered so far is that it is not video games. Mental illness may play a role in this. Then we pivoted a little bit and we looked at hatred. Now, that's part of it, but underneath the hatred is fear. And then the roots of the fear is this in-group, out-group, us versus them mentality that is rooted in our ancestral heritage. Now, this part is what can we do about it? So I like to quote people, and here's one from the Buddha that I think is relevant to this discussion. It's man's own mind, not his enemy or foe, that lures him to evil ways. So that's very relevant because what we are trying to do here is transcend our evolutionary heritage, those primal instincts that are hardwired into our brains. We're living in such a primitive environment for such a long time. It is very difficult to overcome those roots, but try we must, because the world is very different from that of our ancestors. So that quote is relevant because it's the root of this problem is our own mind. So we got to come up with a different way of looking at this to transcend that old habit of in-group, out-group. And I'm a big fan of the Dalai Lama, and if you aren't familiar with him, he's the spiritual leader of Tibet. He's a Buddhist. And one of my favorite books of all time is The Art of Happiness. I highly encourage you to read it. It's very inspiring, and it has a nice East meets West kind of thing going in there. And here's what the Dalai Lama, his approach was. And he is known for being able to connect with people from all walks of life. And the starting point is, instead of looking at how we are different than others, is to look at how we are the same. So again, how are we the same as that person across the aisle or across the border or whatever? And here's how we're the same. It starts with we all want to be happy. That's a purpose in life, is we all want to be happy and we don't want to suffer. We share that with the entire world. And if we unpack that a little bit more, we have the same feelings of happiness, sadness, anger, disappointment, frustration. We love our kids, our family members. We have day-to-day struggles that when people let us down, disappointments and things like that. All those we share with everyone in this world. So when we meet someone new or when we see people, instead of immediately going to how are these people different than me? How is the person with a different skin color or culture or tradition, how are they different? Look at how they are the same, and you will find we are more alike than different. And what we're trying to do is dissolve that barrier between this in-group and out-group, which when it comes down to is artificial. It doesn't really exist. So this is interesting, and there's often multiple layers of things. And when we look at some of the mass shooters, some of them feel alienated. They feel like they have been cast out of the group. And that's why they're angry to begin with, because they feel like they don't belong. And if we go again back to our evolutionary heritage, we want to belong. We want to be part of a group. So how do we be part of a group at the same time as we're trying to transcend this in-group, out-group thing? This isn't easy. We want to do both. I would say it's not an either or, it's kind of a both and. These two things can coexist, that we belong to a group and we don't see ourselves as different than other in terms of superior or inferior. Yes, there might be superficial differences, but at the heart of things, we're the same. So I think being part of a group and belonging generally is a good thing, but we need to be wary of it. And you look at things like school pride or people with their universities and the football teams, these rivalries can get nasty. And what can happen is we start to look at this other team and this other group as inferior. We start making generalizations. We stereotype. things like that. So that's what we need to be wary of. We can belong to a group, that's okay, but be careful. And if you notice yourself judging other group members, out-group members, as superior or inferior to you and your group, there's a problem there, and you need to go back to that exercise of trying to dissolve those barriers and say, wait, how am I the same as these other people, not how I'm different? So now we have this mindset that we're trying to adopt and internalize. Now, how do we put it into practice? So every day, I encourage you, and I try to do this myself too, because I'm right there with you, is reach out to people who are different than you. It could be different nationality, culture, age. And when you do so, focus on the similarities. Ask them about how their family's doing, their partner, their kids, how the kid's doing at school. You know, those types of things that are the shared experiences. When we talk about those shared experiences, that dissolves the barriers and we see how we are more alike than different than others. So that's a tip to put into practice every day. Reach out and try to do that. So this concludes the third part of my series. If you haven't seen the other two, I encourage you to do so. Of course, this won't be the last that we'll ever hear of mass shootings. Unfortunately, these things will keep cropping up, and perhaps we'll have future episodes where we look at other angles, because again, I do not have the final word on this. This is one piece of it, but I hope you look at all 3 episodes and you have some takeaways that you can put into use. So this has been Dr. Mike Brooks. Thanks so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.